it. No, 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 no.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Treat Show, episode 41. So we are off to a smooth start. We won't go into the details, but I am excited. How's everybody doing in the chat tonight? Thank you for pointing out that I am always on time, working on it. So we have some wonderful guests in the studio tonight. We have Andrew Hatch, of course, and we have Pete. Pete, we're going to introduce immediately, but I'm not going to release Pete's last name yet. We're just going to dive in. Let me see. Hold on. Got to get my buttons. There we go. Wait, where are you at, Andrew? Is Andrew's camera not plugged in?
I didn't do it unless I was supposed to. And if I was supposed
Sorry
to, I did
about
it like
that.
10 minutes ago.
Sorry about that, Andrew. Some technical difficulties.
It's
Oh, good evening,
It might be
Pete.
better this way.
Hello.
It's so wonderful to see you coming on the show tonight. I'm going to move this out of your way and some of these things. Sorry about that. You can stack this stack all over here if you
All
want.
right.
All right, guys. This is going to be a good one. Pete's an OG. That's the best way I can lead with is quick little introduction before I dive into asking Pete every question under the sun with Andrew here is I want to address the fact that Pete had a huge, well, he was an owner and starter of Cultivate, which is a grow cultivation store out of Colorado, Denver. And it was honestly Cultivate, Grow Generation, and Way to Grow are probably the biggest, I would say, in the States still to this day. And Cultivate is probably the most only local, like, at this point. Way to Grow maybe used to be, but now they are no longer. So I don't know. I feel like just knowing that Pete came into the industry with Cultivate as a manufacturer, like producing supply chain, that's a pretty interesting dynamic from the start.
It was 2008 was a good year to get into it, and we just kind of grew, and then I kind of grew apart from the other owner, and then I went to work for Hawthorne.
You work for Hawthorne.
Well, I went to work for Vermicrop Organics, who was purchased by Hawthorne. That's a whole nother story.
See, this is the stuff, Pete. I'm not going to try to put you on blast in any uncomfortable way, okay? But I'm going to say these are things I love to talk about the industry. Is I love to talk about the real behind-the-scenes bullshit that everybody goes through. The more that you try to be successful, the harder I feel like it becomes.
Yeah.
And I think that Cultivate can I ask, like, where you guys even started with the beginning? I mean, 2008, that really is young.
I was living in Georgia, and Chip, who was the other owner, he asked me to come to Colorado and open a store with him. So I moved out here, and we opened one in Wheat Ridge, and first year we did $1 million in sales. We're like, woo! Next year we opened up our second store, and it did that in like the first 3 months.
Damn.
And then we opened another one, and it did pretty much the same. And so it was just, we were rolling. And then in 2014, we kind of had a little falling out, and I went to work for Vermicrop Organics. My wife was the co-founder of the March Against Monsanto for Denver, and I went to work for Vermicrop Organics, this cute little organic company in Olivehurst, California. And about 6 months into that, I got called into the office to get my Christmas bonus and another check, and they said, "Hey, we got bought today. Any idea who bought us?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "Scott's Miracle Grow." And I was like,
Damn.
"Awesome, my wife's going to love this."
And she's literally proactively working against that company at that time.
Well, she was very anti-Monsanto and Roundup, and
I mean, I love your wife, but
Yeah.
I feel like, damn.
she was in school at Georgetown getting 2 master's degrees at the time, and so I was like, it's not like I can quit my job. So
Well, in Scott's, I think a lot of our listeners are familiar with Scott's. I think a lot of anybody in the world is familiar with Scott's. But when you look at that, I just recently found, just a side note real quick, I found out that Monsanto was actually purchased years ago, like 2018 by Bayer.
Mm-hmm.
So Bayer actually owns everything. So like Hershey's, Pepsi's, Coke, anything that you possibly touch. So I think it's funny when people are like, fuck Hawthorne, I'm not buying from them, fuck Monsanto, all this stuff. And I'm like, every single thing in your grow room has been designed by Monsanto and Scott's.
I thought it was cool. I was going to work for GH. I was like, this is going to be like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory when I go in there. It was not that cool.
Not like that. So what do you think? Okay, real quick, and I'll let you carry on. It's like, when you saw that Scott's purchased the company you were working for, though, like, what was your first, like, seriously, like, initial, like, moment thoughts?
Oh, fuck, I gotta call my wife and tell her this.
Do you think that you were scared? Like, I don't know, like, did you start already thinking, like, are they gonna bring in this army of assholes? And, like, are they gonna redesign the walls? Like, did you already have, like...
Yeah, kind of. Like but mostly I was afraid that I was going to tell my wife I was no longer working for this cute little organic company, and now I'm working for Monsanto. And then for the next 3 years, I had to tell everyone, we're not Monsanto. We're not Monsanto.
We're different.
Yeah.
This is an umbrella company.
Yeah.
That's crazy, Pete.
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, so when you, 2008 to 2011-ish is when that transition between the two?
2014.
Oh, 14, I'm
Yep.
sorry. That, Andrew, any insight on that? That's a pretty, like, crazy, I don't know, because you're familiar with Monsanto and everything. Would you, like, what would you do?
Well, in the absence of a viable alternative, probably what everyone else does. You know, like, 'cause if they own everything that we use, right? Like,
It's the truth.
you're
Yeah.
kind of supporting
you're
them
gonna.
without your consent. You know?
Well,
you,
Pete,
you can either jump on the back of the beast or jump into the mouth of the beast.
Oh yeah.
gotta go for the
I
mouth.
did that one backwards a couple times. Jeez.
Okay, Pete, don't let me hold you back. You keep going with what you were thinking.
No, so then I worked for, I became a Vermicrop GH rep, and then I was a Vermicrop GH Botanica rep, and then they bought Can Filter and Gavita, and things were good, and then they bought Sun Systems, National Guard, NGW, basically.
So do you remember, because you're going to have better insight than all of our rumors and all of our gossip, do you remember when the purchase happened between Scott's and Botanicare and all those guys, Gavita, all those in 2015, 2016?
Yeah.
When that final, they had officially taken over everything.
Yep, that's when they bought NGW, and that was like there was kind of like, I think they were going back and forth. Maybe we'll buy Hydrofarm, maybe we'll buy NGW, and then they bought NGW, and then they said, all right, Hydrofarm, we're going to pull back all these products that used to sell.
Damn, so when you're coming in with these home growers in 2008 to 2014, honestly, that was for Colorado specifically and everywhere, that was medical only days. And there was no retail, there was no anything. So you were ballsy as fuck if you were doing this. Like,
Yes.
even if there was a license. So,
Yeah, you could walk into a dispensary with a backpack of weed and walk out with a backpack full of cash back then, which was awesome. Weed was way cooler when it was illegal.
way better. And so when you saw them coming into the store like that and making these orders, did you see grows that, like, you have Viridignus, you have Native Roots, you have all these big guys now that have huge facilities, but back then it really wasn't a thing. So if somebody had like 3,000 square foot, did you get an order and like shit your pants when somebody was like, I want 70 trays?
I mean, my first big order, I think, in my store was, like, I mean, it wasn't even that big, but like some guy came in from Arkansas and wanted to buy all this stuff and me ship it to Arkansas because he didn't want to buy it in Arkansas.
Oh, I got just scared to even have it
Yeah.
geographically like. Then
He's
I'd
like,
be
hey,
scared.
can I buy all this and then you ship it to me in Arkansas? And I was like, yeah, I can do that. That's
Isn't that like
not
just
very
as
cost
bad?
effective,
If you're like, is he paying cash through the phone?
but I guess it's cheaper than prison.
Yeah, I would assume so. I mean, cheap in more ways than one. Down in Arkansas, it's going to be.
That's a really good, I mean, it is a really good point. And I think that like transitioning from like Cultivate, the other company that you call, what is their name? I'm sorry, Pete. The second one that you went to that changed from
Oh, Vermicrop Organics.
Vermicrop.
Yep.
I'm not even familiar with
The
them.
owner of Vermicrop was dating or married to the owner of GH's daughter.
Oh.
And so when GH got bought, they kind of made a little package deal. We're like, you bought GH and Vermicrop.
I mean, I'm kind of jealous.
He's had some very good luck in this industry, and he made a lot of his friends very rich, having their companies bought by Hawthorne over the years too. So
That's even crazy. Do you think that Hawthorne, like, okay, I've worked with Hawthorne in distant relationships, right? But I don't, like, do you think that Hawthorne honestly is somebody that you've grown? I just see them get a lot of hate. I see them get like slammed on all the time. Do you think that Hawthorne is somebody that you would like support? Do you like Hawthorne? Are you kind of like, meh.
I'll be honest, like when I worked for them, they took really good care of me. Even when they laid me off, I got 6 months of severance pay, and like they did it very professionally. But when they bought NGW, they had to cut some of the. I think they had $40 million worth of stuff that they had to cut, and I did not make the cut.
That's okay. I'm so glad that you hit on that though, because both you and Andrew, I think, know more than most people. Is like when a company gets purchased, this is a weird thing though, is like you have nothing to do with it, right? Like nothing to do with anything, and you probably don't know what the fuck they're doing because
Right.
they're very quiet about it.
Yeah.
So on purpose, because they can't have the staff quit before they're closing these deals, because that's probably a big part of why the deal is closing.
Yeah.
So I think it's like everybody's experience.
There was
and-
people I worked with that were like, "Yeah, fuck this, I'm not doing this." And then, but I had a wife in medical school,
Yeah,
and
and
I had 2
that
kids. I'm like, I can't just quit my job.
You don't have
I
that
wish
option.
I wish I could, but that wasn't an option for me. So
But then when you're going through and you're building up a company from a start off like Cultivate and then going to another company and then they're getting purchased, to me, like I feel like that's a pretty jaded situation. Like honestly, is like if you're starting from the top in a small business, you have a couple partners, something like that, is like whether or not it gets fragile or not, is like that happens. But then I think when you're going to your next endeavor and then something like that happens, how the fuck? Like I would be like, what in the fuck? Like I'd be like, dude, why am I doing this? Like,
a lot of my friends were jealous that I got the severance package. They're like, "Man, I wish I had gotten that because this sucks."
yeah, but when you're looking at like, I don't mean this with no disrespect, but when you're looking at like $10,000 or whatever, $20,000 as a severance package, but then you're looking at, okay, I was supposed to make 60 to 100 a year for fucking working for you, like, thanks. But it's like it has this false. To me, that's my own opinion. But it's like when companies try to do this, it's like I get it, but I mean that's gotta suck.
Well, it's better than what I got with GrowGen.
Oh fuck.
I was
Okay,
gonna
let's
say,
keep going.
write me a fucking severance check. Like, that has not happened to me before. You know what I mean?
I got one time,
Yeah.
and it felt so good.
Yeah, I went on vacation in October and came back after 15 days, and they're like, they laid me off like a week later, and I was like, or no, not even a day later, and I was like, "Is there any severance package?" And they're like, "Yeah, you can use your PTO you have acquired," and I was like, "Well, I just came back from vacation, so there is none of that."
You're like, did you guys do this on purpose?
So I got 8 hours. I was like, "Could you not tell me before I went to Florida?" And like,
shit.
I was supposed to go to St. Kitts and spend a week down there, so really glad I changed my mind on that before I.
Oh, see, and then you
Because
come
I
back-
would have spent the rest of the money I had down there.
But that's even more like I think that's the thing, B, is like all of us run into these weird situations where you gotta value yourself, you gotta value your value.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's even harder when you're in these positions where you're like, okay, so just like you're saying, I'm budgeting, I have a family of security and shit I have to take care of. It's awesome that you guys had a great payday, but it's like, where the fuck does that leave a person really when it's like you don't want to be like desperate, and I'm not saying that you were like this at all, but I'm saying
Oh, I was totally desperate when my severance ran out and then the unemployment was running out. I was freaking out, and I went to work for House and Garden for a year, which was great. And then they kind of, things started slowing down, and so I went to work for Way to Grow, and I was managing the North Denver store.
busy location.
Busy location. And then GrowGen came at me and was like, "Hey, and it was the first time in my life where I had a really good job that I liked, and someone was offering me more, so I had the upper hand."
That's cool.
And so they kept coming at me with more and more, and I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm good." And it was during COVID, and shit was great during COVID for grow stores. They were crushing it, and so I went and worked for GrowGen for, I guess it was about 2 years, and then COVID kind of ended and shit went down real fast, which is where we're at now in Colorado.
I see that like huge. Like I saw it honestly before COVID. Is like I would say 2017 got pretty sparse with like weed. Like as far as price point per pound is like in the wholesale market, all that stuff. It took a pretty big tank from like let's just say 2,400 of average weed to $1,000 or below for premium weed.
Well, and that happened in 2018 to right before COVID.
Yeah.
And then when COVID hit, everyone's got all this extra money that the government's throwing at them, and the pound price went up to $2,000, and people came in and started buying LED lights again.
That's exactly. Do you think? So that's the thing I love and hate about weed, but because it keeps you on your toes. But it's like, I feel like is
How does it go down in value every year?
every year, and it's like in certain
Monetization.
times of the year. But, you know, you look at October when everybody harvested in California forever. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like we take a shitter till like December.
You're like, you got to
January
get your
1st.
indoor down in July, or you're gonna be fucked.
That's like, and then it's the worst time of year to grow though. Your room's hot as fuck. You got bugs everywhere. You're like, fucking hey, man.
Well, back in the day, you could have 4 lights and do pretty well, and you could go on vacations, take the summers off, and but not anymore.
You could literally, I think, have 6 crops a year and afford your entire life, like afford all of it back in the day.
I lived better on 3 lighters back in 2008 than I could live on a 20 lighter right now.
Or 30,000 square foot. You're like shit. Like,
I was
feel
gonna
like,
say 20's conservative.
but I'm so glad to have the OGs in the house to talk about this because I think the thing that Andrew, and all that you or hear his story is like Andrew's been through shit in this industry too, and like where you work so hard to build your resume though, and like honestly starting out with owning a company, that's huge, and it's like the ultimate goal and the ultimate dream. The downside to that is I think when you're trying to achieve the top dog and you finally get there, it's really hard to go backwards. People talk about it because life does it to you. It is what it is.
I'm a mailman now.
Dude, that's the best fucking job. Honestly, I need to talk to
I
you
teach
more.
plant classes.
You teach what?
I needed something with job security, so I was like, oh, mailman.
Obscure plant classes.
See, this is valuable though for all of our listeners. Is just like you said. So COVID had this really like good year for all of us financially. It really did.
We were essential.
Yeah, we were essential, and it was
I was in hemp.
you were. Andrew was having a better.
There was one good year in hemp.
Yeah,
One.
it was the
That
year
was in
before the one I got into.
2017. That's when weed crashed. That's when weed crashed. Everybody left
2019.
weed.
They're like, we're gonna do CBD and CBG. And
Yeah, and it's
Like, dude, our
worth
cigarettes are gonna
all
be in
this.
gas stations.
And these 18,000 seeds that are supposed to be feminized and fucking auto flower are a mix of like, 50-50 males and females, you know what I mean? Like, it was nuts. It was like,
I got these hemp seeds at Vitamin Cottage. I'm gonna make $1 million.
That's exactly how it would happen. It's
Yeah.
in your chapstick.
and the
Everybody.
owner of that company that fucking put out those seeds, like, sold his fucking house in Cherry Hills and got the fuck out of the country.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah,
I know
would've whooped his ass.
I know a few very good like success hemp stories, but many not so much.
I don't know. I don't know a
It was
successful
like,
hemp story.
yeah, like,
That's,
I like to talk about hemp futures. I decided just now on the spot. People thought they had a future in hemp, and didn't turn out to be the
Right.
case. Like a bunch of people jumped in. There was about like a lot of the people that got like kind of the shady ass consultants, like not just the ordinary level of like shadiness of a consultant back then, but like
it's true.
fucking they all got chased out of the weed industry here and into the fucking hemp industry. I was not aware of this. I was like, these numbers look good.
Because you were coming in, see, that's even sad. Is you're coming in with all this experience and really trying to be professional and coming with this knowledge and validation and research and development behind all these things.
Yes.
And then you're competing with the Instagram famous guy. What the fuck
I
does
wouldn't
that
say
feel
competing. I think I would need an account first.
like? That's a good
Seriously, like this
Andrew
chick
does
in a
not
bar
have
was like,
social
"What's your IG?" I'm like, "Immunoglobulin." I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And then they told me it was Instagram. I know enough about data science to make me not want to be on much social media.
It's hard though with social media. I will say is like when we started in this, like 2008, like all of us for reals is like you couldn't post on these platforms. You couldn't like by the time like I remember all of this really getting popular, I had already been shadow banned like so many years. I think I've been shadow banned like the whole time I fucking had
Is
this
that what
stuff.
they call it?
Yeah, where you just gotta type in, go real extreme, looking for something. But it's like I don't know. It's like when I look at it's the real growers can't get into social media. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but it's like a lot of these guys that I've seen are Instagram famous and growers and breeders and whatever they are. Is like you'll actually sit in a room and get high with them, and you're like, dude, let me see your clones, let me see your plants, let me see your shit, and it's like they have nothing, zero experience, zero resume, zero fucking plans, zero anything.
Yeah.
We should just like hang out with one of them.
I don't know.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm
you're
saying?
right.
Yeah.
Maybe we should. You guys know any Instagram famous people out there?
Yeah, and we need a psychiatrist too.
We do need that.
My wife's going
Yeah.
to school for that right now, so.
We already got
Alright.
one.
You know, to just subtly manipulate them. Because the ability to post something online, as I've said before, qualifies one as one and only thing, and that only one thing, and that's fucking a typist. Like, that's your qualification. You know how to type, right? Like,
I like
I
it.
see a lot of people that get like a lot of. I mean, I corrected this thing on LinkedIn in a small way, but it was like not just one misconception, but like fucking another one. Like, as far as like it was describing. Or switching the words like back and forth, fucking chromosome and marker. Like they're like, yeah, it has more than one set of markers. A polyploid does, and it's not markers. Markers are like fucking signposts along the chromosome that tell you where
It's
genes of
actually
interest are. But they think that. So we each have like we're diploids, right? Three of us are diploids, as far as I know, and like weed is diploid, meaning it has one full set of chromosomes from each parent. And you can cause, I think it's called like a non-disjunction event or some shit. Anyway, yeah, I use big words occasionally correctly. And so, damn, lost my train of thought.
I'm so sorry. I do it to you. Okay.
No,
hold
what
on.
was the subject?
Chromosomes.
Oh, chromosomes, yeah.
Tripods.
So markers are not...
My uncle has an extra one.
Yeah.
It's really
And so
triploid.
that's not polyploidy, that's an aneuploidy. But the when you have more than one full set, more than two full sets of chromosomes, then you know you can be considered polyploid, which just means kind of other or multiple fucking ploidy values, which are the sets of full chromosomes. But with you can make weed a triploid or like a fucking tetraploid or a hexaploid or any of these values if you just fuck with it in vitro enough, basically. But people mistake the crested fasciation. It's when the meristem is like compressed laterally and it fucking basically comes out like a fan, like this weird ridge.
I've seen that before.
You know, and that's actually, it's called fasciation. It's not anything to do with genetics. It's not genetically really inherited. It's like just a hormone imbalance or, you know, virus or some damage to the tip. It's like not, they're not related, but people say, oh, this is a polyploid.
Oh, okay.
You know, for the fasciated types. When it's
Yeah, I got
just
plantar
kind of-
fasciitis because I decided to go roller skating after the age
Damn.
of 40. That was a bad idea.
Oh my. See, well, I think that is. See, this is all very interesting. This is all very interesting. I think. I think that. Okay, so Pete, tell us more about. I'm sorry, because I got all excited when you said Hawthorne, but I cut you off in the middle of your Hawthorne thing too. Is you worked for Hawthorne for how many years?
It's probably 4.5, 5 years.
It's a pretty good run.
Yeah.
That's a long.
It was fun.
Do you, Andrew? Okay, wait. Sorry. No, Andrew. Do you have a spot that you specifically shop at, like as a grow store, or are you familiar with Way to Grow, GrowGen, and Cultivate?
Well, I've had like one horticulture business or another for the last 12 years, and so I've just accumulated shit from all sorts of sources, and I take care of it mostly. And so I still have a ton of like, you know, lights, and so I haven't bought anything from a grow store except like, you know, H2O2 or anything
Because
in
you
a
have
while.
so much.
Yeah, I got a garage full of it. It's like,
Yeah, when I left Hawthorne, I had a little bit of nutrients that I'd stockpiled over the years.
I just got like a bunch of racks and like 4-foot LED light bars that are full spectrum, and like I can build out as many. You know, I grew like 6,000 clones with those, like, just because I thought it'd be a good idea to try to make all the clones for my own hemp fucking operation in my basement.
It is a good idea
It is
because
a-
you can't trust the people you're buying them
Well,
from, and they're expensive.
It turned out
problem.
a guy named, you know, I don't want to fucking mention his name, but his name is Andy fucking Grant. He's a crooked motherfucker.
Dirty hustler.
Yeah, for real. Anyway, he sold me fucking clones, and I propagated one. It was a poor fucking cloner, you know, and so
Oh.
I didn't get nearly as many of those as I got of like the other stuff I got that was actually good.
Oh, that
But
sucks.
it was fucking like 4% THC like at the first time I did a test, like And I was like I
Really,
tested
this is
my
going to be
own-
really hot.
I tested my own shit.
Pretty sure that's not
preemptively,
him.
right? Yeah.
This
it-
is
it-
why
it
we're
was-
not Instagram famous.
It was like week 3 of flower, right? Like it was not, it was gonna get much worse, and so we fucking just,
So basically,
went
he
out
sold you
in the
weed.
middle, in the middle of the night. Yeah, I had to cut down fucking like 300 like huge field grown flowering plants, and fucking put them in. I put them in piles, and then I like shoveled a bunch of dirt onto them, and then threw a bunch of elemental sulfur on them, so that I could argue that like I was destroying it, right?
Yeah.
And
It's compost.
yeah,
a good-
for sure. I
like
left
it.
it in 3 piles that were like easy to distinguish, and like
Well, because I forgot. I'm sorry. Because
freaked me out though. Holy shit.
Yeah.
well, your hemp thing is why you say that is the 4% is that 0.03% cusp, right?
It's 0.3%. Yeah, is the cutoff, but this was already like 3 or 4%.
And that's what you were saying at week 3.
Yeah.
So you had to get rid of it.
So you were probably going to finish at 12 to
Yeah,
20%.
it was gonna be like, here's your bar of soap and here's your fucking towel. You know what I mean? For a while,
See, that's it.
if the wrong cop showed up, you know what I mean? Because it was like hundreds of pounds of fucking what was weed, basically weed. But like I did what I was supposed to. You know what I'm saying? Like
No one showed up.
no.
That's
Well,
good.
actually, it was funny because before I got the test results, and then I got the notice. Or no, right when I sent the test out, I got the test results, and then I got a notice saying I was about to be inspected. And so I had to look up the laws, and I was like, because I don't want to break the law, and I didn't
Absolutely.
sell me this fucking weed clone.
Never
as a hemp
broke a law.
clone from Andy motherfucking Grant.
Fuck you, Andy.
I was gonna say I don't hate him, and that's not true. It's just hate takes a lot of fucking energy, and I don't got that kind of energy for him. It's just he defrauded.
He just
other
sucks.
People. Yeah, yeah, for real. I just like to mention his name in case other people are.
Guys, we fucking hate him.
Yeah. Well, like sometimes
Fuck Andy.
it's like if you see a fucking dangerous snake in the road, and there are other humans around, like do you warn them about that shit?
So this is the thing is I'm going through a similar situation right now with the snake in the garden. I'm sure some people know exactly who I'm talking about. And the thing is like I'm seeing him and I know that we've all been through this, and I really wanted to touch on it tonight because it's not just a corporate company thing, it's a personal thing, it's a people thing. Is when you look at these people that go after people, right? That target us by our skill sets, there's one thing on being healthy competition. We all need somebody that honestly gives us a little pep in our step. We need the little umph. But when you talk about low blows in a company, I've had people in the past call the MED on me for blunts, right? Being one time I had this person be like, she smokes blunts in her car. It's fucking hilarious. And
Oh, no.
yeah, and I was like, dude, I don't know. Could you tell from my Instagram every day or what was it? And so anyway, so they tell me all this, right? And they have the cops and everybody around my car, right? One day at this inspection. And it's because I'm a consultant coming in to fire all of you. And it's yeah, I can see why you should call somebody on something. But,
Yeah.
but what I've realized with all of us, though, is I have my own stories and shit talking, but I feel the truth is I've noticed this pattern, though, is the industry is making this excusable as a whole, whether it's the state, whether it's the cops, whether it's the grow stores, whether it's everybody, it puts grow stores and consumers and cultivators all in a compromised position all the time because you always have a snake in the grass and you always have these snitches in the room. But so you can't throw events, right? Everybody at grow store is fucking terrified to throw an event or support a seed, a seed company or a breeder, or the breeder is scared to have them there because what the fuck is gonna happen if Charles calls whoever the fuck?
Right.
And then if everybody gets together to have a hot dog and smoke a blunt, everybody's like, oh, you see that seed event? Oh, we got a call because I'm not invited.
Oh,
Yep.
Jesus.
And it's I see it at the grocery stores. I see it forever. For 14 years of working in this industry, I see where the closer that you get to people and the more you let in people as a mass and the higher you get up in your career, the more everybody is going to go for the lowest blow. They're like, how can I annihilate
Damn,
you?
it's like a fuckery multiplier.
It really is. But you know what is so amazing is if you fuck with my fam or you fuck with my squad forever, is a pitbull mode. That's what I've realized is I'm like, dude, I've got the best attorneys. I've got the best fucking everything.
Yep.
What are you going to do? I've got more money. I've got more time. And it's like, if somebody tries to fuck with you, it's like, dude, fuck with me. Like,
Right? Sometimes you're just kind of like, you know what? If we have to fucking wade into this,
that's
like,
it. But it makes me sad that our culture is shifting, though, when it shouldn't be like that. It should be like, if you let somebody into your grow space, or if somebody comes in to buy from a grow store, all these things are very privileged moments that we're losing touch with. Like, when you buy clones from somebody, if that person had clones for 10 years and preserved these genetics, and you're like, oh, I could get them from whoever down the street for $10, it's like, well, fuck you. Go get it from your $10 homie. But it's
Probably not going to be what you thought it was.
yeah, it's
but
like this smells kind of like
Yeah.
this, and so I'll just name it that.
covered in powder mildew, some spider mites. Hopefully you get russets.
Those are trikes.
Yeah, get those snow caps. But I feel like that's the thing, is I see where we're losing. I remember back in 2012. I remember back in 2008. I remember back in 2007. People rob people. I will never deny
Oh,
that.
yeah.
People rob people. But the thing is nobody fucking called the cops. And nobody tried to get you fired. Nobody fucking tried to get promoted over you. Nobody did all this bullshit. And now I see it, and I'm like, dude, you're just little baby vultures.
Yeah, every man for themselves.
Yeah.
Fuck you, I'm
And
going.
all for what? I'm like, dude, you're gonna get paid minimum wage and have no job in a couple years.
Yeah,
What are you
I
gonna
knew
do?
a dude that him and his dad owned a dispensary, and he watched his dad get shot to death. And
No.
then took the gun from the guy and killed him. And like,
The guy owned the dispensary.
yeah, this was in the like early days. I think it was like 2008. And like, who owned the dispensary, was sitting in a room with a bunch of weed money. Who knows? I have no idea, because I obviously didn't like press him on like the details. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's some.
We had
crazy
SWAT come into Cultivate one day, and they were like, they came in with a gun, with their guns out, and my poor manager, probably shit his pants. He was scared, and it was all because someone grabbed a box out of our trash and was mailing weed across the country. And after they came in and they were looking for a grow, they thought we were growing weed in this grow store. We're like, no, that's not happening.
It's in the bathroom.
But when they left us with their itinerary for the day, and it was like, pick up CI at airport, drive to this house and do this, go to Cultivate and see the grow. But when they realized there was nothing there, they left, but they left us with like their whole itinerary of what they were going to do that day.
Oh my
And
God.
they had this guy fly in from Virginia. They picked him up at the airport. They brought him to someone's house, probably fucked that guy over, and then they were going to come to Cultivate and bust this giant grow that was just a grow store. And once that went down, I mean, I literally was like, you can't write, like, this literally is a piece of paper telling us how stupid they are. And it was pretty...
and give you the ability, if you so chose, to actually reach out to multiple people.
Oh, there was phone numbers on there too, and I put them in our system to see if they were actually our customers. I was like, all right, well, I can maybe
Send out some warning.
maybe
Catch a charge for that shit.
That's what I'm talking about. Squad and family. That's a squad and family. You're like, yo, dude, gotta get those tomato
Leave.
bushes. Yeah.
Well, we had a lady cop that would come into our Wheat Ridge store, and she's like, how do you get away with this? And we're like, with what? And she's like, you're growing marijuana in the wind. I was like, those are tomato plants. And she's like, oh. I was like, you're a cop,
Wow.
and you don't even know what a marijuana plant looks like.
You're
I watched
a
somebody-
human, and you don't know what a fucking tomato plant doesn't look like. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Exactly.
Dude, I watched somebody in Lions one time. It's like I spent a lot of time young in Lions, and like Lions is a pretty grow friendly community. Like
Yeah.
Scott's from there, right? Yeah, in tight, very tight squad. So it was a landlord of this rental property. I'll give them whatever, but this guy had his med card, whatever. So he's growing these plants in this townhome, and he's like tight though. I'm saying he's like a clean grower. You know, he got the electrical done right. He's like had his electrician in. He's got his bedroom. He's got his living room. So he has this video, and this woman is like coming. They're raiding his house. So the cops are coming in. He's like videotaping it, and this is like the most magical moment. And it seriously was like 2007 or something. And it was fucking awesome. He's sitting there. And he's walking him up the stairs and like going up into the bedrooms, and he's showing his camera. And you walk into this master bedroom, and there's like tents everywhere and all this like shit. And the woman that owns the house is like freaking out, and she's like, yeah, I got him. Like she's all like stoked, you know. And he like unzips the tent, and he does it so perfectly. He like unzips it, and he's like, do you like these tomatoes? And, and it's like
Nice.
totally winter outside. I'm saying he's got like the whole thing packed with these tomato plants and veggies.
Hey
And
man, you gotta have your fresh vegetables.
that's exactly. He's like, gotta keep it green. And it was just like my favorite fucking thing. And he is just cheesing with all these people devastated. They're just like, oh man, I thought I was gonna fuck you today.
Yeah, we're gonna evict your ass.
Yeah, exactly. We thought we were gonna, and it's just, it's funny to me that deep down that will always be my soul of me as a grower. Is I think I get somebody called on me every couple years because this is exactly the tech. Like I'm saying, everybody's like, oh, this person's doing something. Let me fuck them.
Yeah.
Damn, I can't say my life is that interesting. Like, I'm kind of, yeah, like I've never. No, I'd like it. I don't know. I use the force. I don't know
Maybe
how to
your
explain
energy's
it.
better.
I just.
Maybe you're manifesting better things.
I'm also just hyper paranoid and do shit. Like, so
Classy.
I used to not.
Always looking over your shoulder.
I got when I was 26, I heard this loud pop and that was my head coming out of my ass, and so like basically I stopped like fucking around, and I'd like quit getting drunk, fucking had babies and fucking like went back to school. You know what I mean?
Life.
And like yeah, my time in the weed industry has been like nothing like really shady, like you know what I'm saying, like that I've seen. And I everybody I say this to, they're like, what? I mean, there was a shady character or two, but
Well,
I never
sprinkled in
I
along
never
the
got
way.
anybody
This is
called on me personally, like as far as that goes.
Well, this is funny. Is like these companies are huge companies. Like I won't list the names or whatever, but it's literally like one time this employee was like altering his test samples, which we all know is illegal, right?
Yep.
And so it's now a misdemeanor. It's like this whole freaking thing, So he's like messing with this thing, and I was the director of operations, so I oversaw both facilities, right? This is my grower. He's the head grower of one facility. He is the person I'm overseeing. Totally agree with all that. But like I would go in and I would do his treatments. I would spray for them. I would do their treatments, and I would come in on these. So he didn't do treatments. Moral of the story: he didn't do anything like that. That wasn't whatever. So I quit this job. This is really funny. I quit this job. The camera footage goes back like 60 days is what you're mandatory to have or whatever. So I have to submit the samples, and I didn't plan on quitting. There was just like, it's one of those days. It happens. And so I'm sitting there and I'm making this sample and I do it all, whatever. So they ended up getting raided. They ended up having the stake, like all this shit happened. 8 weeks later. So I quit this job 8 weeks exactly before. The footage goes back exactly 8 weeks, and it's the day I'm taking this sample. And this person's trying to say that I altered his sample, that I trained him to alter his samples. And it's funny because I specialize in fucking compliance. So I'm like, dude, like they pull the footage, they see that I take a fully compliant sample.
Yeah.
and this guy's thinking that I'm about to get fucked, and he's like, yeah, baby.
Apparently he's not familiar with cameras.
That's exact. I was like, dude, like you gotta. I don't know. It's like I'm not saying everybody's like, but it's not even like a shady thing. It's like weird when people like get in these uncomfortable. I'm not saying it wouldn't be weird if you were fucking with your shit and like and this day comes in, I'd be like, well, it's a rough day, dude. But I feel like you can't be like that. Pete, we're going back to you.
Okay.
Let's bring this back to you.
All right, where are we doing?
Yeah, sorry.
No, I get
Digression.
excited sometimes. Sorry, feeling hyphy this week. He's okay. Tell us more. Did you only work at the grow stores for that period of time, 2008 to 2014?
Yep. Yeah, just making Cultivate bigger and bigger, and we had another store that opened in Southern California in Riverside that didn't do very well, but the Cultivate stores here, I mean, they still crush it. So, but when I left GrowGen, I had a lot of people calling me, and that's when a buddy of mine from New York, Brian, he wanted to open Evolve Garden Supply. So now we just all we do is drop ship. We don't have to store anything.
What?
The biggest problem with the grow store is you bring all this stuff in, and 40% of it's never going to sell, and so that's where your loss comes in. And you can try and you can try and give it away. You can try and sell it for cheap. It doesn't bring the best people into the store to buy it, and most of the time you end up donating it to charities to try and just at least get a little write-off out of it, then instead of just completely eating it. But
I actually tell that to people like in my plant classes, like I forgot what I tell them. Jesus.
No, I just do it to you every time.
Yeah, like
because I
I'm
go
not
to
sure.
Bless-
What were you just saying a second before that? I've been hitting the head a lot.
The amount of waste this industry produces.
Oh
for
yeah.
tax purposes, they write it off.
I mean, when GrowGen buys the store, they come in and they buy all of it. And granted, they get it at a cheap price, but most of it's worthless shit from, years ago. So,
Totally. I mean, it moves fast, and like the industry's gotten like fucked with pricing and shit recently. But the people that were investing heavily in like moving that tech forward,
right.
like.
Well, that's why we
they're
decided to
suffering,
just do drop ships because we
I
don't.
love
That
it.
That's
way we
fucking
don't
amazing.
have like. We don't have a storefront.
Keeping it fresh.
You call us, we order it, we send it direct from
Them to you.
to you. So, and you don't go in a store.
See, I think as a business model, though, during the recession, all this shit or whatever the fuck you want to call it, is like, I think that's the thing is like overhead of these buildings, people don't understand. But when you're paying let's just say $20,000 a month.
That was what we were paying for rent.
For your rent, and that's not including like your payroll, your supplies, your merchant, like all this shit.
Right.
It's like that's too much when we're talking about $50,000 a month in a failing economy or failing market or whatever the fuck this phase is with weed. Is like we are hurting. Everybody's hurting here, and I keep hearing from these other states, right? Like they sound like the way we used to, and I can't wait till they feel it one day. Is like it's like when New York and everybody's like, I'm gonna do it better, right?
Colorado was amazing until Oklahoma.
Exactly. Oklahoma, man.
Oh,
I've got a
I
grudge
actually
with you.
remembered what I was gonna say. Is that
Yeah,
in my
please.
plant classes, I give a direct shout to the industry. I'm like, so a lot of people move here, try to do something, and then leave without the equipment they bought. So check Craigslist, Craigslist, because I teach like orchids and like bromeliad
Right.
classes and shit, and a lot of the tech is great. It's just like not in mainstream hork because there wasn't a lot of money like being thrown around to invest in mainstream hork. You know what I'm saying?
That's so smart. It will save you a lot if you purchase used equipment right now and you sterilize it properly.
Yes, sterilization.
That's a key component. Of
We
that.
had, but at the end of my run at GrowGen, it was like once a day someone would come in and be like, "Hey, do you guys buy used equipment?" And we're like, "Craigslist, Craigslist,
No.
Craigslist.
I wish we
Don't
all
buy used stuff."
I wish we'd all come together and just take all of our shit to the same like yard sale and be like, now you can actually build a room. Like now you can actually fulfill all your parts.
I'm not
Anybody
sure
wants to buy a
spending-
trimmer? I have a couple.
I might hit you up on that.
For sure.
I think
I was my trimmer. Like when I grew up
my
that hemp, I
trimmer.
trimmed like 2 acres of fucking hemp in a barn. That was
Oh.
interesting. It was kind of cool from like just an plant anatomy standpoint. Like I got very intimate with each of those 3 strains that were not Andy Grant's fucking weed. Not that I'm judging.
I think it's just like it's weird to me that like if everybody was being like humble and honest is like the deeper we've gotten into this like with contacts, with relationships, with money, with pull, with any influence, I think period is it's like you get paid significantly less. The deeper that you go into it, the less you will make. If you start out like a raw prick that just acts like you know everything, I'm telling you, that's the best money you're ever gonna make. Whether you're a bud tender, whether you're a trimmer, whether you're I don't know, aspired individual.
I know so many people that are like, I got this job. It pays $200,000 a year. I'm going to go in and start and fix this grow, and then 6 months later they get laid off because
Yep.
they stole your recipe and
Yep.
all your SOPs, and you are done.
I tell everybody this is like I had these moments like of temptation like that where one time I'll say because his name is like so funny to me and I don't care, but so one day my broker called me and he's like, Jay, I have a job for you in California, and this is like a few years back. This is before COVID, so like when times were rough,
Yeah.
right?
The
And-
first $1,000 pound
Exactly.
season.
And he's like, they're looking for the best at this and they're looking for this niche thing. So he was like, he's willing to pay a lot. So I was like, sweet, what's a lot? And he's like, $225. So he's like, Jay, I'll give you, and I'm not bullshitting you guys. I want these real context of like stupid shit that you'll be tempted to. So he's like, $225. He's like, we'll fly you out here. We'll pay for the house. You make $225. And if you increase our yield, so we're going to put you neck to neck with this other grower. He's like, so you're going to have no life though. He's like, and that's like, part of owning your own business or being an entrepreneur, period. It's like whether somebody pays you or not, you have no life. So it's like, sure, sign me up if you're gonna pay me $225. And so he says all these things, and then like his name is Tommy Lee. That's why it's so funny to me. So he's like, he's like, I'm Tommy Lee. I got this 200,000 square foot grow. You know, it just sounded like everything everybody's ever wanted, right? It was after Rare Dagness. People were kissing my ass during this small window of time, and like
It's the good old days.
exactly. And he was just like, let's do this. And I remember just being like, no, like I'm not looking for a head grower position. Like, you want to hire a consultant? I would love to help you for a couple hours a
Yep.
week, and I would love to fly in somebody because exactly what you guys are talking about. Exactly, Pete, what you said. I have seen it happen to myself and seen it repeatedly happen to everybody else. Is if you if you think whatever total they're telling you, even bonuses on yields and all these promises, if you think if you have the finest contract you've ever seen, is you will never, ever, ever get what they promise. You need to get as much up front.
Don't ever put anything down on paper.
Don't ever put it on paper. Don't waste the money for your attorney.
Don't do it on camera.
Also, like, you better be paying me really well if I'm gonna be an employee running a facility I didn't fucking design. You know
Good
what I'm
point.
saying? Like,
Huge point.
because like, what if you get there and it's like, well, that's the back wall
Your
or
HVAC's all
part
fucked?
of it, you know? Like,
The last guy could only get half pound of light, and you're like, oh, I can fix this. You're like, oh, wait, I see why he. Yeah, you need more stuff. There's a reason you got a half pound of light. You can't keep the temperatures under control. You can't keep the humidity under control.
Yeah.
Your lights suck. You haven't changed a bulb in 3 years.
See, now we need to go back to Pete with this too. So the reason I had to bring on Pete today as well is because I was like, all these lighting guys, right? There's like all these lighting people out there. There's a whole shit ton of new brands. Everybody's got their sales pitch. Every grow store has who they're partial to. I get asked at least 5 times a week on which lighting company I'd like to refer. So Lux, you know, we worked with Lux back
Yeah.
in whatever. Honestly, I just won't go into it. But I think that
They gone.
exactly. And so I think that it would be awesome for all of our guys out there. Is Pete's gonna be our lighting guy? Everybody listening to the show is I'll let Pete have his moment to shine here, I promise. But he's our lighting guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm partial to Illuminar because I've known Sean, who owns the company, for years. He's amazing. He always takes care of me quickly, you know, makes sure that I can get, you know, if I go, someone calls me and says, hey, I need 150 lights, I want to get them the best deal possible. And I know that he's going to work to find me that deal where someone can get their rebate and probably not have to pay anything to have their lights put in, you know, like
That's massive.
they might even get a check back in most cases. If they're
that's
not going with a super high end light, you know, you get $1.05 a watt, you can get a nice light, 720 watts, you know, you're getting about $800. But if you're going out and you're buying a Foch that's $2,000, you're gonna pay to put those lights in. And,
What do you think about Foch?
you know,
Sock it to me.
Yeah.
I sold a bunch of them. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, all right.
Well played.
We'll Foch this for now.
Faux show.
Oh, you beat me to that one.
Andrew, do you have a lighting company that you like?
I've been really pleased with Thrive Agritech.
Thrive Agritech?
Yeah. I got, I think, like 60 of their light bars. I can't remember what it was called, but it's like a 4-foot white light LED. I've grown several hundred species of plant with it now. And I love them. They're dimmable. I mean, it was like 5 years ago that I got them, so like they probably got new stuff. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, every
They're
every
still
year
running.
there's new lights, new technology. It gets a little cheaper.
Like, I
The
haven't had a
drivers
single
get
one
better.
fail.
The
in
drivers.
those 5 years, I haven't had a single one.
What I liked
fail.
about Luminar was that you could replace a bar instead of having to replace a whole fixture. Like something, if a bar went out, you just grab a new bar, put it in, and you're going. Where with some of these lights, it's like, oh, my whole fixture went out.
Yeah.
So
Could
you want
you-
to take that down in the middle of a grow, and no, it's just not.
So these guys that have home grows, like with like a standard tent, let's just say, like 4x8 little situation, is if you put one of these lights up, like of the Illuminars, is like the 277 or the 120, like, or just the outlets. Is it a problem for the home growers that they should know when they go to look at these lights that like?
Well, most of them have like different power cords that come with them, and they automatically adjust to whatever wattage
They
you
can
put
do
them.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the
Fuck
days
yes.
when
Yeah, you want 240? You want 120?
Yeah.
What you said? Yeah,
That's
you know.
exactly. That's what I'm scared of because even 5 years ago, you had that problem with like 315s, right? CMHs. Everybody was like running this shit, but like it really did depend on, and it's like a whole ordeal. Sorry, but that's important.
Yeah.
And then the daisy chain. Can you daisy chain them together?
You can.
Is the control thing expensive for their little control
the
board?
controllers are cheap. We had a guy that had bought a $400 a Gavita controller for it with a high temp shutoff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
July comes, his AC dies.
Oh shit.
He didn't put it in.
Oh.
Shit.
He lost $1 million because he didn't put a $400 controller in that would have just shut off his lights when it got too hot.
You
And so his lights just
started-
kept going.
Oh no.
His air conditioning was off, so it got up to 160 degrees in his room.
160. Damn.
Damn.
I've been there.
That's hot.
I've been there. I just did some dumb shit last week. Can I tell you guys really fast?
Sure.
This is real.
Yeah, I
stupid.
love dumb shit.
So yeah, I was like, this is like a moment that I was like grounded, and so I'm like filling this reservoir, right? And like I have my own salt mix. I'm running this salt mix, whatever. So I decide one day, I'm like, you know what? I haven't been running an aqua mixer. I'm like, I'm gonna put this bad boy back in my resi. It's a 100-gallon resi. I'm like, my salts were like settling a little too much. You know, I was like getting pissed, and so I was like, I'm gonna put this in here. So first of all, the rooms do not get that cold, but they get a little chilly. I'll be honest. They're like, I don't like it right now. They're like riding the cusp. You know?
Yeah, that was the one thing that was kind of nice about HPS is in the wintertime you had a built-in heater and
That's what I miss about that shit. I hate these LEDs. To be honest with you, I'm not into it because of this very reason. Living in
I know people
Colorado.
that'll throw a couple HPSs in there just kind of as a heater and some supplemental light. So
Exactly. So I'm thinking with this aqua mixer, the same thing. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna my water. Like it's been like 22 degrees. Like
So this
the
should
last
heat up the
couple
water
days.
a little
Yeah,
bit.
exactly. I'm gonna give her a little boost. So okay, I go in like a dumbass, and I'm looking at my. This is honestly just great shame. This is amateur hour, but just a friendly reminder to all of us growing is I put my
people
aqua
fuck
mixer-
up.
Yeah.
So
We are not
I don't
robots.
learn shit
Oh.
by being right.
Yeah.
I do not learn shit by being right.
Thank you.
For sure.
So I put the aqua mixer in there. This is the next day, right? Like overnight, whatever. I seal the top so the evaporation doesn't go in my room and all this shit, right? Thinking I'm so awesome. And
Because my dehumidifier is slightly undersized.
exactly. I got my H2O2. I'm fucking ready. And so I'm sitting there and I look at my like meter, and it's just like the Blue Lab Pro. So I'm looking at all the shit, right? And I'm like, okay, the EC's right. And this is just because you're bored standing by the reservoir, like doing your thing. Like I turn on the pump, you know what I mean? Just like reading shit just to read shit. Like I'm not doing it because I'm an overachiever. I'm just like, I guess I'll check this out while I'm standing here.
Yeah, never start your reservoir water when you're drunk. I found that one out the hard way.
I'm a habitual.
I was like, why is my sump pump running constantly? Go down the stairs. Oh, I left the hose on for the last 48 hours on Friday when I got drunk and went downstairs to turn the water on.
That's hilarious. It's so true.
Yeah, I was talking to her the other day. It's like when you hear the sound of water splashing, you just like start running. You know what I mean? Like
Immediately.
you don't know what you're running for, but like you know it's bad after. Because I've overflowed a ton
yeah.
of reservoirs. Only like once at a place I worked, but like at home, fuck.
I rented a house in Boulder and I put a splitter on, one for my washer, one for my hose. And I came down at like midnight one night and it had blown the hose off.
Yeah.
And the downstairs has 6 inches of water in it. And I'm renting this house and it was really nice. And the landlord called me up and he's like, hey, we're moving back from California. And I was like, you can have your house back.
Of course you are.
And I had 12-inch holes that I'd put in the walls, and I was like, "How can I? I'm not good with drywall." I glued a dartboard over it,
That's a perfect
Hell
solution.
yeah.
and then
Oh
on
my
the other,
God,
and
that
then
is-
next there was 2 12-inch holes. One's a dartboard, and the other one's a dry erase board to keep the score on. I was pretty proud of it.
I mean, that
That's
is
genius,
crappy. If
man.
I do
That's
say
genius.
that's pretty nice.
But when the carpet dried, it kind of shrunk up, and it wasn't the same size as the area anymore. So
I mean, I feel like the rooms could get bigger over time.
I found out that concrete can rot.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, if it's super old, like I had a house
No.
up in Fort Collins.
Water
yeah,
will fuck
it
some
had a-
shit up.
Had a
It
concrete
is the worst.
floor, and it fucking like was destroyed after a while somehow. And I was like poking through, and there was mud, and like I don't know the proper term for what happened, but like it was about 115-year-old concrete, and it just kind
Well,
of.
I mean, it's like they say the Hoover Dam is still curing at this point, so and there's water running through it, so
That's not cool.
yeah.
Not a good situation. Well, gentlemen, I got my roads up to 104 degrees after fucking watering my plants and realizing
They love
it.
that.
Yeah, I was like, oh, kill those aphids, you little bitches. Just kidding.
We killed
But
all
that's what I was
pests.
thinking about. Yeah, exactly. I was
all
like,
of them
Are
except
the-
Yeah, I
roots
did that
supposed
with
to
a little giant pump one time. I came down and it was just it had blown it was just running and it was dry and you could just see like oil and smoke and coming out of the water and I was like, oh, that's not good.
that's the worst. Have you guys ever done something where you like see the hose is like you think the hose is in whatever you're filling, like even if it's like the
Yes.
quarter-inch thing, and you think everything's actually going well, and like you'll be walking by checking it, being like, oh, look at it.
Still not full.
That's still not full. And you'll go in and you have like a foot of water under like whatever, and you're like, oh, just
Whoops.
mopping.
Yeah, I had to like put up like plastic sheeting to keep the water from like ruining the concrete and
Well,
to
and two-
get it to the fucking. Yeah, that's what I did at first. And then I got like 4x8 hydro tables and then like taped shower curtains all along the inside.
That's
So I could
actually-
water all the orchids because they were all hanging. And so
Well,
it went out through a tube into the fucking hole. In the, but short term, that shit was wild. I'm like, am I
in
gonna
2008 when I flooded that basement, they did not have dehumidifiers in Colorado.
Go?
Oh,
They're like, why would you need a dehumidifier in Colorado? It's
Like,
dry as
they
fuck
dummy.
here.
They got them now.
Yeah, you can find them everywhere now, but back then it was, Sears catalog.
oh, I believe it. I believe it. Like when I was
You can buy a humidifier everywhere here, but a dehumidifier, no.
No. Well, I was thinking about even the rolling bench. I was thinking about, like, this is stupid, but I was like, okay, we're dating this. Like, yeah, like when they were building out their facility, like when I was really thinking back, I was like, but really, like when you walk into these grows that were built before, like, I mean, that our grandfather did, like, nobody knew what the fuck a rolling bench was. Like, nobody was doing that. And it's like everybody had the concrete slabs. You remember, like, the 5-gallon buckets filled with concrete with the, like,
Oh, yeah.
wood slab shit that give you splinters and, like, russets everywhere. It was like, put this bad boy with your spider mites to the right. And I don't know, but everybody grew that way. And now it's crazy to me that they're like, you don't have rolling benches? I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Have you ever spent $100,000 on tables?
The new generation.
They
of
do
weed-
nothing for you except for move plants out of the way.
Yeah,
Like,
crack
I
every
can do that
fucking
with a
year.
fucking hose and
And-
wand.
And people don't realize that they come split up. I know this is stupid, but people don't
Oh, yeah.
realize that they're not full molded trays. That
Oh
they
yeah,
come
we had to
split.
put them together at every trade show. We had to put the new Gavita ones together, or the new Botanicare ones together.
Just set up the display?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck that. I hated their whole pamphlet, too. When I put together that tray, when they forgot, they said this was a mistake. I don't fucking know. But when I bought the tray, it was like, instead of being alphabetically, like, lettered or marked or something, they just gave you a pallet of shit, right? They just give you a pallet of shit, and they're like,
Yeah.
have fun.
I talked to some friends and
Have fun.
all of them wanted these rolling benches, and I was like, well, if we get them all shipped to one place, you'll get a better deal on them. They're like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Well, they just sent it all in one thing, so they had to figure out which parts went to which trays, went to which houses, and it took them. I mean, I'm sure the amount of time they wasted on it, they probably could have just spent the money to buy the benches and send them to each individual house.
To
That makes
actually get.
sense. I had a job working on combines, right?
Ooh.
And the dude, a surly motherfucker, like I swear his cowboy boots were made out of real cowboys. This dude, he fucking he comes out with 2 big chests of like tools, drops them, and he's like, "That's the combine. Learn it," and walked away.
No.
Yeah, no, dead fucking serious.
My neighbor in Ohio ran himself over with a combine.
We learned it.
Oh, my God. See,
Like to death?
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to die, like
That's
unless it
awful.
rolls over like your toe.
did you guys notice that the Botanicare trays of any form, like, crack, like, they're thicker than the active aqua trays, but they crack more. It's like where the water settles, and then your tray, like your light baking it, or whatever the fuck, the weight, it doesn't even matter if you put them on plywood or whatever.
Right.
Is like, I've just noticed that I can't even bash on their quality, like, really, but I am. It's like, I'm just super
You're talking about
disappointed.
Botanicare?
Botanicare.
Yeah, I have their low flood tables, and one of them's like in my bedroom because I have like a ton of rare plants in my fucking bedroom and in a what's it called, a tent or whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, I've like actually got one like with stress on certain points of it, and I'm like, that would be terrible
I love
because it's not ported out at all. It fills up with water, and I suction it out,
There you go.
and so it would be awful because I'm on the second floor.
I'm trying to manufacture some shit with the right person, but it's so hard to partner with the right people without being like, just take all the money, I guess. But like, they should be like rubber or like more like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that would make sense.
like it should.
Yeah, people come into the store and buy a 4x4 tray and think they're going to throw it in the back of their Honda Civic, and next thing you know, you're strapping it to the roof of their car. We had a kid; he was in a wheelchair, and he came in and bought a 4x4 tray, and he's like, "Just strap it to the hood." So we strap it to the hood, and he's sitting outside the car. The straps are going through his door windows, and I was like, "Fuck, what are we gonna do with it?" Tinker's over here. Out of the car still. So we picked him up and put him in his seat, and we pushed his wheelchair in and threw it in the back seat, and he drove all the way back to Canyon City with it strapped. I thought he was gonna fly away.
Yeah, that.
Oh my god! See, I don't like that. I don't know how I like it. I don't like it. We keep copying the same like things, and it's just not as cool as they should be. I was like, if there was saucers, right? Like if there was saucers instead of trays, like fuck the rolling bench system.
I have saucers. I have trays. I have
anything
risers. I have a shitload of plastic that's never gonna be used again.
Ooh.
Anybody want to buy them?
You know, okay, we can sell shit on the show, I feel like. But anything that you could think of with, okay, top 3 companies that you think people want to trust that you don't think they should trust after working with them. Anybody? This is a pretty harsh question.
Yeah.
or top 3 companies that you think that people should work with and trust.
I think that people like. I mean, it's all pretty. Lighting companies, there's some good ones out there. I'm not gonna bash anybody. I've been on the bashing end of things from when I worked for GH. You know, there was a lot of advanced HU, and you know, it was just
GH crushed the market though. Like honestly, who didn't run GH? Anybody that started growing weed before it was popular to grow weed, you had to have run GH.
Yep.
Yeah, I seem to remember running it in like the 90s.
Straight up, like
I think if it was there, it was like the bottom.
Oh no, it was around since '77.
That's what I figured. It was
77?
the
damn.
you know the bottles, like the colors like haven't like changed. There's been no, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
they're-
Yeah, they stay.
So it's
red,
recognizable
brown,
for sure.
and green, or
That's
pink.
fucking crazy. That's a long time.
Yeah.
For sure. And I mean, it worked, right? It did what it was supposed to do if you plugged it in.
That's why Andrew talks about like how like sometimes when people do get too partial to these brands and things like that, is like especially with nutrients, is it becomes a very controversial like thing. You know, like people are very passionate about what we feed our plants, which is good, but it's also like this weird balance of like most of these things your plants need, and they're gonna be in this mix.
Yeah.
So-
right. And if you put it in the solution at a rate that doesn't burn your plants or underfeed them, the plant will do what it's supposed to.
Exactly.
You know? And it's
Yeah.
pretty broad. You know what I mean? Like,
And it doesn't matter if you're fit.
I mean, Canna's a great product, but it's, you know, you're gonna spend a lot of money, and when the pounds are $1,000, it's like, am I gonna buy the fucking boost? I don't know.
I was a head grower at Harmony back in the day, and they had 2 facilities. It was the same thing. I was like overseeing these spots, but they were really partial to Canada, and they were doing well. Though. They
Yeah.
were like competing. They were, you know, like quality, all this stuff.
Yep.
But I looked at their stuff at the time, and it's not relevant to now, so nobody get crazy. But it was $10,000 a week per facility to run Canna, and I was like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?" Like, and it's nothing. Like Canna and I are friends, and then I feel like the thing is you
was it
can't
just salt?
afford.
Like, I mean, was
It's
it
their
just-
A and B, so this is funny because it's literally their parts A and B, and but you'll cruise through them if you're filling like a 300-gallon reservoir or a 400-gallon reservoir times 4 or whatever it is.
It's a lot of 20 liters.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're gonna cruise through those bottles. So then you start getting the drums, or you start. But when you look at that, even I love that you brought that up earlier with the shipping too. Is like all these companies
Liquid's expensive to ship.
Yep.
super
Heavy.
super, and then you take on top of that, and it's like all these companies store shit, like you said, to get the best price point for themselves. It's like I found out when I worked with Way to Grow, honestly, is like that my particular salt stuff that I was using at the time it had been there for 3 years, and it pissed me the fuck off. It's like,
was
and
there
it's
like anything falling out of solution? And...
no, because they were salts, like, so it was like 25-pound bags and stuff
Oh,
like
okay,
that.
okay.
So
I thought
it
you were
wasn't.
talking about mix.
No, you're right. With like how
But everybody's got a powder now. Everyone's trying to take the liquid out of their stuff and redo it, and some of them are doing really
Makes
well with it.
sense. I mean-
But a lot of these powders are all the same, and the weed just looks. Everything looks the same.
It looks the same.
And
People think it tastes the same and looks the same. It's weird because I've been growing with salts for 10 years and I love them. But I do not just use just a salt mix though. It's
Yeah.
like I do have a dual.
add some additives and little tweaks here and there, and you can make it like it was with liquids. And liquids are great, but it's the shipping that's just astronomically
for sure.
expensive.
Well, in the storing, when you like store these things though and they compress, I know this is stupid, but like the soil or like not from Way to Grow or anything or any of these grow stores, but I bought soil from like a garden shop that like was mold, you know, because the pallet had been stacked and it was dense. And
Well,
the
most of these
moisture-
soils are made in like Northern California in very wet areas where it's
Wow.
difficult to not, and they all have hemp pests and stuff out there, and it comes over. I mean, it's like my business partner Chip. He owned Royal Gold. He sold it to Chad, who is running it now, and
That's cool.
they were, I mean, ramping up and ramping up and ramping up, and
Super
then
popular.
he opened up a facility in South Carolina, and just to cut that shipping cost down. But when he did that, he was ramping up in California, and he had so much business out there that he had bought all of his cocoa for the next year, and then this market went whoop. And when weed is $400 a pound, $200 a pound for outdoor, people aren't buying new soil every year anymore, and they're not.
Have you guys seen that? Like where the quality, even in the soil and things, is not dropping because of choice, like you're saying, or anything, but just like the movement and the packaging, and it would be really difficult as a company. Honestly, is you want the shit to be available when you come in, but you don't want to order it online. You want to be able to pick it up, but then it is frustrating for probably the owner to pay all this in overhead to get all this shit in for the one guy that's gonna come in and spend $250 or whatever it is, but.
Yeah, gone are the days where like ordering something for someone on like a handshake. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll order you a pallet of that in, no problem.
Now it seems like you guys are stuck, like even in that side where you can't even really guarantee, like you're saying, you can't even guarantee the product, which I'm sure comes back on you, not, but does.
Right.
Because I'm sure you get the pissed off person that's like, I got aphids in this shit, or you're starting, or whatever it is, thrips, whatever they're like gonna put back on this. I've seen it with Canna. It's like, I love Canna, like I said, they do test for Fusarium and all these things, but I've seen that grows will come back and be like, you killed my grow because we bought Canna from you. And it's like, or
It's
cocoa
not
from you.
always the liquid. It can be the fertilizer. It can be the fertilizer. It can be the soil. There's
Yeah.
so like it,
So many
you bring
variables.
pests in from other gardens. Like it's
You could never blame that. That's the truth, and these companies know that. Is they're like, dude, you can never blame that on us. Like, because there is
most of
some
them will try and make
variables.
it right. You're like, okay, yeah, you think our shit killed you? We'll give you another pallet. But
Yeah.
they're like, no.
Yeah, I ended up helping one company. Like, I just took apart their whole process and was like, "Oh, here you go," because it was like just something that people wouldn't necessarily think about from a microbial standpoint. But
Yeah.
we tested at one point a bunch of different cocos on the market, like all the big ones,
Yeah.
like 5 or 6, and
Wow.
yeah,
That's
and
a lot.
nearly all but one, I can't remember which one it was, were heavily contaminated with Fusarium, plant pathogenic, human pathogenic.
Canna cocoa is very clean, and I'm pretty sure it's probably the one that
This
didn't
was
have
some
it.
years back.
Okay.
Like
I love Canna.
7 years. But I helped them like correct that, right? You know, and
Yeah.
they were like, they wanted to help.
Yeah, as soon as
Sure.
someone comes in with a root something or another, the first thing they say is, "Oh, it's the soil," and you're like, "Not necessarily."
Actually, it's funny. Is like I've worked with somebody in the past that's like convinced that like insects only come from the medium. I'm not even fucking kidding. Like this is like really in their mind. It's like the only way that these.
Tell the guy that's running Grodan how he got all the aphids. Then
Exactly. So I'm just like, dude, you rolling around outside. Anyways, but I think, but yeah, I don't know, but like, so like switching mediums with,
couldn't have been from that dirty ass guy you bought the clones from.
Right?
No.
No way.
He wouldn't have aphids or spider mites or powdery mildew.
that's what I think is funny is like quality to me is exactly that. Is like when I look at companies like Canna, it's like, I'll be honest, and I do work with them, and I will not use their nutrients because it's too expensive. Like I will use my salt mix, I will like whatever, and get results that I really am pleased with. But I think that like their cocoa though is I have a way bigger plug on cocoa if I wanted to save money. But that guarantee, like you said, can I actually trust? Like with their cocoa and with their
Yeah, it's RHP certified. It's they have a clean facility. They
beautiful.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And they're really, honestly, they've been really good to me. They've been, like, I mean, like experience wise, like Canna is a good fucking company. Like
Yeah.
their Rhizotonic, their Canazyme, like there's other products that even though you won't, like I won't use their A and B, like I use a lot of their other shit, and it's expensive in comparison to most other things, but it's kind of like makeup to me. I know it's not the same for most people, but I feel like you treat yourself to these little things, but they last you like 12 months or something, or 6 months.
Yeah, when
or-
I was working for House and Garden, we went into a facility and they had switched off of House and Garden, and
Oh.
and they were using Veg Plus Bloom, and they saved $64,000 by not using,
That's a lot.
but they grew 200 pounds less. So
It's that weird. Yeah. Well, in quality.
oh, so you save $64,000, and how much is 200 pounds worth to you?
Well, and that's exactly like one thing I'll say about Canada is those hash guys out there is like for people like bashing on what like whatever with all these nutrient lines is like the hash when I was at Harmony is like the hash came out great and like we had high yields on everything and like the terpene content, like these weird things that you could actually have tested results in comparison to the other lines, you know, and it's like I think there's a value in that, like you're saying. If you get a higher yield, even if it's only 10%, this sounds stupid, but if something is only 10% more of like, you know, density or whatever this is, mostly density, is I feel like you're like, I'm gonna invest in that if it balances out. And
Yeah, if your product is, if you get more of it and it's better, then
Right.
you got to weigh the. I mean, I used Canna for years because it was always spot on. You knew exactly what the plants were, how they were going to respond to it.
Yep.
You never had deficiencies.
You know, V, you're the only person probably that would be familiar with this line, and I love them, and I want to go back to using them, but they are expensive. Is BioBiz is I used to love BioBiz. and
The issue I had with BioBiz is like the distributors never had fresh products. So it was
Ever.
like, oh, let me get that. Why is that algamic brown when it's supposed to be green? Like,
What
You're
was
right.
BioBiz?
it's a Dutch nutrient that's organic. But yeah, the distributors that distributed it, they never had fresh product. So my friend Anthony in Chicago actually was the distributor for it for a long time, and then something happened and he wasn't. But yeah, good product. But that's the issue is maybe we can figure out how to get you fresh BioBiz. There's someone that works for them now, so maybe I can get you guys linked up.
Seriously, B, is like this is funny, but they had like it's kind of like blends of compost teas. This is
Okay.
weird, but it's against our compliance, you know, to make a home brew, right? Like
Yeah.
we can't just take all of our.
Well, and that's
shit.
how Vermicrop got popular. Was they had a Vermi tea cartridge, and their teas were very. And then another tea I really liked was Cutting Edge had one called Hum Tea,
See?
and that shit, like I swear to God, you'd feed that, like it was said, it'd tell you to water it down like 50 or like 20 to 1 or something. I poured that shit straight on my plants, and you would literally see the stalks of the plants just like almost triple in like
Yeah.
3 days. You're like,
No.
whoa.
For sure, yeah. It's like the diversity of the microbial life will trigger all types of fucking induced systemic.
You'll be able to feed them more often. You'll be
Yeah,
able
it's
to
like
feed them heavier.
steroids for the plant.
Yeah.
for sure.
What do you guys think of amino acids for your plants? Is I had some people talking to me about like amino acids and different types of calcium this week. I can go into it later some other time if we don't want to.
I'm not a huge. I'm not highly. He'd probably know more about amino acids than I would.
Sorry for
Not
this.
very much. Like the amino acids, I guess water can't freely pass through a cell membrane, but the cellular, the cell membrane has like the ability to move certain things, to transport certain things into the cell, and so if you chelate certain things, like say a sugar or something else, you can actually deliver them inside plant cells to some degree.
Really?
Somebody that's a lot smarter than me on the subject of chemistry was the one that explained that to me, and it was some years ago. But
No, thank you. I just was saying. Sorry, I was just thinking about it. Is I got 2 questions on amino acids this week, and I was like, wow, I feel like This is something I need to update myself.
Sometimes
on.
people just overthink this shit.
There's
Oh yeah, also like soy protein lysate.
Ooh.
Like do you know what I'm talking about? That's like it's just a
Was that
bunch of amino
lecithin
acids.
or whatever?
Well, it's just a bunch of amino acids. It's when you take the protein and just disengelize it. That's not a word, but you basically denature it. You make it fall apart into its component amino acids, and for some reason that has strong plant biostimulant effects.
Okay.
See, Pete, Andrew's my brains.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
don't put too much pressure on me here.
I know. I feel like. What do you think, Pete, has been like your hardest part of the weed? Like, cause you are like in the industry like that, like forever, in the culture and been in it.
Well, and one thing I noticed, like even when I got laid off this last time, it was like applying for jobs. Like I have a great resume for this industry,
Definitely.
but people look at it from another industry and they see hydroponics. They just think marijuana, and they're like, no, next,
It's
next.
devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have an amazing resume for this industry, but the problem is nobody's really hiring for this industry, and so that's why I'm a mailman now, because I needed something. Like I got laid off like 3 times in 4 years, or it was just like, all right,
Oh my God.
yeah,
3 times in 4 years.
and it was nothing that I did. It was
No?
just business went to shit.
Yeah, but that's like really brings a huge perspective, because I think there's a lot of people struggling right now that won't like talk about it, and we're trying to all be positive or whatever the fuck. But the truth is I think it's nerve wracking.
Yeah, mental health I mean, COVID has done a number on a lot of people's mental health. I know
Definitely.
way too many people that have passed from mental health issues in the last 5 years than I care to go through again, honestly.
No, that's interesting that you said it. So I had an owner, the very first, it's not the first dispensary I ever worked for, Grow, but it basically is the first one I got real tight with, and we worked together for years. And I started working there in 2011, and I stopped working there in 2014, and these people really helped me. Like, I'm saying as like a family. Like,
Yeah.
where you just really squat up. Like, we did all kinds of shit together. That was
Right.
like, you'll never be able to get back. And like, and it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah,
But-
me and all my homies moved to Humboldt in 2000, and like we were all in Georgia, and one of our friends moved to Humboldt, and then another friend moved to Humboldt, and then next thing you know, we had this apartment complex that people called Georgia by the Sea, because we all because we all had
Nice.
10 lights in the 2-bedroom apartment and slept on our couch.
Oh, see, I love it.
But it was an amazing place to live. Like you wake up in the morning, you go to the beach, you go hiking in the redwoods. 4 o'clock, you eat dinner. About 8 o'clock, your lights come on. You water for an hour or two, prune some plants, go to bed, wake up and do it again the next day. Like it was. But I imagine now, if you go back to Humboldt County, that it's probably a bit of a struggle.
That's what I think is it. Is that gentleman that opened that spot? I just found out last week or the week before. Is like I found out that he took his life this year, and it was such a setting back, like a point where you like,
Yeah.
this industry is tough, and I'm not trying to be like dark or like,
No.
but it's that sad, like you said, getting laid off that much, honestly, and we all have these like weird business trials that
Yeah.
it's like you said, the value in your resume and the value in you is so. It's so exceptional, and it's so superb, and it's so what you want to refine and be the top of a finite industry. But it's so sad to me that we're stuck in this like limbo that the industry seems to be stuck in for too long, of like what is compensating somebody truly for what their value really is,
Right.
and like respect and like trust, and it's stuff that it sounds so ridiculous, but it's just stuff that I think is heartbreaking and heart-wrenching to see.
I have friends, that's how they made a living. They were in the South. They, sold cannabis. The market went to shit, and they're like, I don't know anything else. Like,
Yeah.
this is what I know.
Exactly.
And I had a friend take his life, and he was
See-
the nicest, most that guy would never do that.
Yes. Like always smiling,
Yeah.
probably always exactly. This guy, yes, and it does break your heart
You
that
can't take care of your family anymore. You can't take care of doing the things that you've done for years. it'll do a number on your mental health for sure. Sorry to be a Debbie Downer.
No, it's like I'm trying to find a fragile way to talk about this because like I know people are struggling out there, and I know that like this is weird, but we're all trying to protect like our brands and our jobs and all these things. But there's a part though that I want to see everybody get real and like come back and bond together though. It's like I'm tired of this cop shit. I'm tired of this like with all kinds of shit. The money thing, the layoffs things, like it's just it is like the truth. It's like people that worked their whole lives on getting to a certain point finally felt like they were gonna get compensated for it, and then for whatever reason it keeps getting taken away. And I was like, there has to be a deeper vibration. I know this sounds weird, but a deeper vibration as a unit if this is happening to all of us.
Right.
Like,
yeah, I've been offered jobs in like Buffalo, New York. I'm like, I don't like cold. Like, I don't want to move there. Like, I live in Colorado. I love Colorado's weather. I love everything
Yeah.
about it. But the weed industry is not the thing to be in here.
And the
unless
cost
you
of living.
unless you had a dispensary and you got in the very beginning and you did and you're successful with it. I mean, I know a lot of dispensaries that aren't even growing weed right now because there's so much of it out there. It's like, well, I can buy it cheaper than I can grow it. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their P&Ls are all ass backwards though. It's like you see like all these companies though that like are still in business. This is a misleading part. It's
Right.
like they still have their lights on, right? But it's like no, they're negative profit margins and significantly. You take like a couple of years ago and it's like a third like for all these guys that were huge companies, like a third of their margins, they are going negative to have like their staff and have their shit and rent and everything.
Yeah, because
paid.
they want to take care of the people that got them to where they are. But at the same time, it's like at some point you got to, hey, I'm sorry that I got to let you go, but we're not growing weed. And so I don't really need a head grower.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like vertical integration made a lot of sense at the beginning because it was kind of like you just like print money to some degree, right?
Right.
But
Sure.
then it kind of became a liability because
Colorado was great when it
companies
was the
that
only legal state.
grew up in that kind
Amazing.
of culture of having more money than was necessarily reasonable. Didn't get efficient. A lot of them, like a lot of the big companies, they just didn't really focus on efficiency
No.
or a long-term kind of strategy. And then you see a lot of them shutting down their grows. And
But do you guys, with what you're saying, Andrew, is do you see like a lot of changes with like, say, just like you said, is if we go back to the time when we were the only state in the United States that you could come buy weed, and you know that was our most profitable time ever, like ever. 2020 honestly came really close though. I will say they're pretty close financially, but I think that
But when half the state's on unemployment and the government's giving you an
it
extra
doesn't count.
$600 every
It doesn't count.
the government's giving you an extra
Right.
$600 a week, you can buy a lot of weed.
That's exactly the
or
truth.
buy a
This is
lot of
what you
lights to
wanna
grow a lot
know.
of weed, and it's
there you go.
But I think that's that weird part is like where we got that. I just feel like the quality, we always like talk about quality and like marketing and branding and all these different things and the value in them. But it's like, if you really think about the stores back then and the limitations, even within the state, like it was such a ballsy thing. And like everybody was like growing way better weed. It is the truth. There was
Yeah.
no such thing as a perpetual harvest. Let me underline, highlight, star, exclamation point. There was no such thing as a perpetual harvest, and the weed was better. And I'm trying to convince everybody that that is where they're fucking up commercially, but is get away from that shit because
Yeah, I would tend to agree for sure.
Thank
'Cause
you.
You just can't ever clean anything thoroughly, and then like the things just hop from one plant to the next.
yeah, no, it's a bunch of small rooms is way better than a giant room that's
Totally,
constantly
totally.
turning over and
I love it. And I think you should finish it. The state doesn't make it easy. I'll be honest. Metric does not make it easy. Like the batches and the testing, like if you have 30 strains in a room, you have to get them individually tested. It's like, what the fuck, dude? It's $400 a strain. So it's like, sweet. Like I'm selling the pound for $400.
so everyone just go back to growing Blue Dream like you did in 2010.
That's exactly what it feels like. Because I'm like, dude, if we go back in time where everybody had these selected strains on the shelf and like everybody exclusively grew, like Rare Dankness, you went to for Ghost Train Haze. You went there for Moonshine. You went to a different shop for Ghost OG. You went to like, there was these places that you went, like Pink House had Mars OG and Phantom OG and this fire shit that was awesome. And they were known to be these places like Dank by Pank, Kush House, like all these places that you would go pick up the weed. And they only had these strains. Like,
Right.
Dang by Pank was Don Shula, like, for a long time. And, like, it's stupid, but it's like now everybody's like, come to our 50,000 fucking shops. all over the entire country, and you're going to see 70,000 versions of Gary Payne or White Runt or what, like, I don't even know, whatever's popping for the week. I'm really
Yeah.
falling off
What
of it.
weed is this? What do you want it to be called?
That's
Right.
exactly. They changed the names. All these guys hustling clones changed the names. Like all this shit with. It's just getting so sloppy that I'm like, you assholes, man. Like when it was tight and it was a small community, think about it. Everybody moved here for it. It's not like we left them out. It's like they moved here for it. They came here. We were a community.
But as soon as Oklahoma came,
They were like, that's exactly what happened.
they're
And
like,
that's-
all my friends that were coming from Texas aren't going to come to Colorado when they can go to Oklahoma and buy weed. So I'm moving to Oklahoma.
I remember going down to
That's
like
exactly-
southern Colorado, right by the
Pueblo
border.
fad?
I can't remember. It was like south of Pueblo. I can't remember what it was, but it was really the type of thing that sticks in your memory. This town. Anyway, fucking every third.
Was it weed? Weed,
I
Colorado?
feel the same
Well,
way.
yeah, it was like fucking. That was the only thing that really I think was pumping money into the local economy, and like every
I think that's
license
the
plate
town.
was out of state. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Every single license plate except for like maybe a quarter of them were from out of state.
That is so funny.
That's how you can tell the cops.
Sorry. I forgot about that fad. That was before hemp, honestly. Do you remember like BHO and Pueblo times? I feel like they were a combo package. It was like a buy one get one half off. Is 2014, 2015?
No, I actually only got back in like 2016.
Smart. Is
Smarter.
is I feel like they all switched from like BHO where Shatter was like so popular. You guys know that.
Yeah.
Like where it was just like Shatter. And everybody hated solventless hash. Hated it. They were like, get your bubble hash away from it. Get your rosin. Get your like nobody liked that. They were like, ew. And so it's all about the BHO. And it's just so funny to me that I felt like every license owner, just like they do now with like all these other states, like you said, Oklahoma, so good. So no, but they all these license holders that I don't even know what I was gonna say now. It was just
I mean, I did it to you this time.
no. I know I deserved it.
Head injuries are contagious, apparently.
Yes, they are.
Oh, I feel like no. I want to before we like wrap all of our journeys up. Is I feel like is I want to.
We don't have to just do this once.
I love that. I know you have to come back. That was my first thoughts immediately. I think that you should tell. Well, actually, so you transitioned in the last couple of years to go from not working, or you're currently not working in the industry right now where it currently
Right, but we have a
stands.
website that we just are launching, and we're doing custom quotes for people. We're working with rebate companies to try and get people basically free lighting. So if you have
Nice.
HPS lights and you don't want to, or you want free lights, you can go to evolvegardensupply.com and request a quote, and we can work with a rebate company to get you probably free lights, and in some cases you'll even get a check back depending on how nice of a light you want.
Damn.
So
Y'all come to basements?
that's hard with the energy rebate companies.
Yeah, that's fucking-
They're like,
I
go
wish.
next to the washer and dryer. Just kidding.
Yeah, if I wanted free lights when I was getting lights, I had to beg the companies that I was buying them from.
Well, I'm just saying, get your commercial homie.
Well, during
to
COVID,
put
my
in
buddy
an
was
order.
like, "Hey," I was like, "If I buy a few lights, can I get a few lights for free?" And he was like, "How many do you want?" And I was like, "I don't know, 12." And he's like, "I'm just gonna give them to you." And I was like, "You're gonna give them to me?" He's like, "Well, we have this huge budget that we were supposed to use for trade shows, and if we don't use it, they're not gonna give it to us next year. So if I give you
Totally.
these lights, then that'll go towards that budget." I was like, I'll take your free lights and put them in the basement."
See, that's amazing. I feel like lighting is a weird thing because it changes out so much. Like, I remember when the Lux things and all these other lights, like you said,
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing when Hawthorne bought Lux and then basically put them out of business. It was like, what? Why'd you spend $100 million on a company if you're just gonna not
Pete,
make
you
them
know
anymore?
the juice on it. You got to give us like a little. You got to give us a little more tidbit because you know the juice on it.
I wish I did. I was gone at that point, but it was just I was like, why would? But I mean, GrowGen's doing the same thing. They're buying a store and then
Yeah.
they'll
They
buy
close
5
it.
stores and close 2 of them.
They do it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and they do it on purpose, strategically too. You can tell with like Way to Grow. I'm just gonna use because it is the truth.
Well, a lot of the
It's-
stores they bought, maybe the numbers weren't exactly giving them to them straight.
That's true. That's
And they didn't
very
realize
true.
that the guy that they bought the store from
It's a little
is still going to
squirrely.
sell it on the back end over here. And $5 million in sales dwindles down to $1.5 million in sales.
They all manipulate that shit.
Damn.
That's what I think is funny is like when I was looking at society, or no, not even business society, is when people were talking. Okay, nonprofits, right? I was like, damn, nonprofits are the most profitable business of us all. And I was like, this is bullshit. I'm sorry, nonprofit.
You don't pay taxes.
Because you don't pay taxes, and all you have to do is spend all your business money, which any business owner does. So it's like,
So I just pay myself more?
that's exactly it. Right up at
Non-profit
your
means I
salary
don't
check.
make any money.
That's what I was just like. This is bullshit. That people keep thinking these are like good people and like good businesses and good. I'm like, they're just smart. Like,
Yeah, I worked for an extremely large one, like
A nonprofit?
Yeah, I mean they were the
I bet those-
second world's second largest holder of commercial real estate, and it was all like it's insurance for like nonprofits,
insurance for nonprofits.
basically.
That's like the dirtiest hustler ever. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I did.
How
have
much
to
do you
deal
need
with,
to
like-
spend?
Have you ever seen
Exactly.
the
Are
movie
you-
Office Space? You guys seen that?
I love hospital.
Yeah, I always say it's just like that, except it wasn't funny. But like, they sent the Bobs out. Like they sent these two people out, and they like got everybody excited about driving efficiency in the workplace. And you guys are the experts. But I saw it coming, and so I prepared my team because they were gonna make everyone get more efficient at their jobs and reduce the amount of time it took to do everything, and then fire half of them. And so I made sure that my team was safe through that, and I got the fuck out. And it's just like because the first time that we had like 3 different forces converge on us, like which happened randomly every few weeks, and we didn't have that extra person or two, like
Yeah.
we would have gotten screwed and had to hire people back on. And so I don't know, it worked. It was like stick it to the fucking man. I got out and studied science.
That's what's massive though. Is like when I hear you guys, I'm sorry that I get too excited, and I wish I was more
No, I have
organized.
ADHD as well. I know how it goes.
Thank you so much, Reed. Is I really do.
My wife's like, why do you interrupt people so much? And I was like, because if I don't get it out of my mouth when it's in my brain, it's gone.
That's exactly the truth though. And sometimes like people like me just keep, you gotta like be like, dude, let me get this. I'm just saying. It's
I gotta
the
get it
truth.
out now,
Yeah.
or it's gonna go away forever.
I just really admire you and Andrew because like the thing is I don't meet. It's funny. I meet a lot of people in this industry, and I'm grateful for it. And people of different like parts, I guess. And it's weird. It's like I gravitate more to this. Like you guys, it's so respectable though that you've started stuff. Both of you, it's like honest like business owners, small entrepreneurs, young like tiger pouncing something in like a really young industry, and then having to go through these like changes and these transitions. It is heartbreaking. It's not for everybody. It's like it's weird, but it's like it's almost like you get like an up, like maybe when like you get on with Hawthorne for the first, you're like, I got the job, I got the raise. This
Yeah, I
is
thought
good.
it was the shit. I was like, man, I'm gonna go work for GH. I mean, that was like my dream job. I thought when I was leaving Cultivate, I was like, ooh, like I'd love to go work for GH. And I was like, well, Vermicrop's kind of connected, so I went and worked there, and I did eventually get to sell some GH, a lot of it, but it came
was
with
GHB.
some, yeah,
I'm just kidding.
just a little.
That's the truth though. It's like I feel like when you that's the top dogs. Like when you reach these like points though, is it's almost it's just a double-edged sword. Is I feel like where do you go if you're at the top of your food chain in what you're doing? And then unless you're gonna spend millions of dollars to get into the next phase of your life and do this, like it's like we all almost hope to find the right partners and build the right relationships to honestly have each other to take care of each other. Is like I think that's what I really want the weed industry to become again. Is like instead of being like a me and like an I.
Yeah,
It's like-
there's a lot of that though.
Yes, it's like everybody should have like their places and spaces to have like their signature touches.
If you can avoid having a partner, I highly recommend it.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That's what sucks though. You guys all feel this way because you've been fucked by partners. Like you wouldn't feel this way if you didn't get fucked.
Yeah, I preferred it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was married to mine. Oh, well, shit. My internal dialogue went external.
Andrew, I feel like he's gonna find his sparkle baby Pete.
Yeah, I'll be all right. He's a smart guy.
I just think
Third time's a charm.
Somebody please shoot me first.
But I think the thing is if we wait in transition, I really believe this. Is I believe next year is gonna bring like a whole different chapter to all of us.
COVID 2.
COVID 2, maybe. That's a good. I'm
COVID
hoping-
24.
That's
coming.
hilarious. I think that the shitty part for us is this is the truth that nobody wants to hear. Is like most of our weed smokers, like, or consumers, most of our consumers are people that I think work at restaurants. I think that work in all types of fields, but like music, restaurants, strip clubs, like casinos. Like we have like the rowdy crew that typically gravitates as a mass to us. Like I'm not saying we don't get the like awesome customer
Yeah.
whatever. But so whenever their jobs are affected, our job is affected like tremendously. And I think that back in the day, everybody used to lie and like flex because you were making $4,000 to $6,000 a pound. So you'd sell 3 pounds of weed and it's like, yeah, bitch, I got 20 grand or whatever. It's like now you sell 30 pounds of weed and you're like, I got 2 grand. Like, you're like, what happened?
Gotta
But-
pay the power bills, gotta pay the rent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got 2 grand left.
That's exactly, but it's weird because we need everybody to strive and everybody to work. Like you said during COVID, everybody had extra money, but I'm like, that's fucked up. That's fucked up that that's what it takes for your whole entire country to have extra money. It's like everybody like whatever.
But
That's
this industry was thriving, but there was a lot of, like, the restaurant
Heard
industry
it.
was tanking.
taking, but then they got their checks. That's the best they got paid and most consistently. And I'm like, you would spend money on weed. This is why you get pissed when people are like, people won't pay for weed. I'm like, people will pay for weed. People will pay for
If
good
it's
weed.
good weed.
Good weed all day long. But people don't want to be sold on shit weed anymore. Like, they don't want to go to your dispensary down the street and be like, is this fucking golden goat? like,
Yeah.
like, what is this? You know, sour diesel, it's like, oh, it's not the one, bud. You know, nobody has the one. It's like, well, what the fuck?
I used to have the one.
I paid $90 for an eighth at a fucking dispensary in Vegas just to see it. It had a huge selection, like enormous selection. I was like, what's the
Damn.
best shit in here? I'm from Colorado. These other guys are from Colorado. We're here at the MJ Viz or whatever. You know, we want to see what's going on. Dude, it was fucking awful. Like, it was terrible.
It was terrible?
Yeah,
For $90.
But it was kind of like more of a tourist. It was that really big fucking
Planet 13 or whatever.
Yeah.
You guys went there?
I haven't, but my friends were telling me
Yeah, I
about
went there a couple times while I was out in Vegas last time. It's funny, like I've only gone to Vegas twice, and it's both times for business, and like didn't really do anything in Vegas. You know, it's probably from my friend's stories like the safest way to play it.
Yeah.
Eh.
Last time I went to Vegas, I won like 6 grand on slots, and the next day they called me up in my hotel room and they're like, we haven't seen you in the casino today. And I was like, yeah, I'm dehydrated. And they're like, well, do you want us to send someone to give you an IV? And I was like, well, what's that going to cost me? And they're like, nothing. I was like, yeah, send him on up.
We just want you gambling again.
Yeah, so they gave me a bunch of IVs, made me feel really good, and I had the 6 grand I won on the casino, and I just sat in my room and watched movies and ordered room service, and I didn't go back down, and
Nice.
I left with more money than I came with. It was awesome.
That's the best Vegas vacation I've ever heard of.
Yeah,
I don't know. National Lampoons was pretty cool.
yeah.
Oh, the chandelier bar. Did you guys see that weird drink that you like eat that berry or something? And,
Oh
like,
yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Holy shit! Have you done it? Have you done it?
I want to say I did, but I don't really remember.
It's a zapper. It comes straight into the zap. That's the only reason I go to Vegas is the chandelier bar. I try to attend MJ BizCon or whatever while I'm there, but it's
Yeah,
really
it's like in the middle of a
chandelier
shopping
bar.
center, right? Kinda.
No, it's in the.
The Cosmo.
I don't know shit about Vegas.
Is it the Cosmo Hotel?
Yes, it is.
And it has the triple stack, right?
Yeah, it's where I stayed last time.
It's nice.
Yeah,
It's the right way.
but everything's so expensive.
Oh, it's not worth it. Don't pay for it, guys. Don't pay for it if you're going to BizCon.
Let somebody else pay for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell them you want to buy a bunch
Stay
of
on the
lights and make
Excalibur.
them buy you drinks, and then
Well,
run away
I feel like
and buy them from me.
Bye, me. Do you guys want to cover anything before we close this bad boy out? Do you guys want me to zip it while you guys?
You have any questions?
I'm good.
That's just it.
I'm awesome. Also,
Well, we're gonna have Pete back on, and I'll write him a to-do list, chart, questionnaire.
Yeah, this was all just by the seat of my pants.
We just had to catch up too,
Yeah.
guys. But for reals, send me an email to treeconsulting@gmail.com to hit up Pete for any lighting and products. It's like, I am working with GrowGen right now. But I feel like I will go to...
I love you guys.
I will go to Pete's. We will discuss further, and if I can hook it all up through Pete, we're gonna just move in that direction. So, anyways, if you guys have any questions on lighting,
On Jesus, don't ask me.
I would be asking you.
my last name is Priest. I'm just gonna say, you just let me know. We'll get you a hold of Pete. Andrew, same. Any questions for these gentlemen? treatconsulting@gmail.com. All right. Peace and love, squad.
Peace and love.